The following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television. Major funding for your legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters, safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans. Live from St. Paul, Minnesota, we welcome you to the 35th session of Your Legislators, a roundtable discussion featuring state lawmakers who are prepared to answer your questions and discuss important issues affecting the citizens of Minnesota. Now, here is your moderator for tonight's program, Larry Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this week's version of Your Legislators. We're delighted that you have joined us, and we have with us again this evening a distinguished panel of guests to help unravel the mysteries of St. Paul. As with last week, we are short. This week we're short one senator. Our Republican senator escaped from us. We'll lasso him or her and bring them in next week. But the three guests that we have with us tonight will carry the laboring oar, and I'm sure we'll get to all of your questions and comments, and we invite you to call in those questions and to send them to us electronically. Instructions will appear on your screen. And I've been asked to remind you that we are very high-tech here at Your Legislators. We have our own Facebook page, and you're invited to like us there, and you can follow our Twitter feed as well. And let us know if you learn anything that we should know in terms of the questions we send to our legislators. So we begin this program, as we do each week, by introducing our distinguished panel of guests. And to my immediate left is a veteran of Your Legislators, been with us many times, from District 28A in Winona, Representative Gene Pawlowski. Representative Pawlowski, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
This term, I serve on the Higher Education, Finance, and Policy Committee. I am on the Capital Investment Committee and the Rules Committee. I have been multiple times chair of Higher Ed, the Technology Committee, Government Operations. I think the only committee I haven't been on, and I was even on Judiciary, which I consider to be a sentence, not a privilege. The only committee I don't think I've been on is taxes. And
you come at these issues with a background that includes not only, we were discussing before we went on the air, not only a long career as a high school teacher, but also as a high school debate and speech coach, as I recall correctly.
Also, and I've been adjunct faculty at Winona State for 20 years. For now, 39 years, I have run a model legislature with area high schools, where for 2 days they have their own House, Senate, Governor. They produce a bill book that's sometimes 400 to 500 pages long. They have 9 standing committees, and their task is to balance the budget in 2 days, which they always do. I will emphasize it is a nonpartisan legislature, so they actually focus on policy, not on partisanship, and therefore they can get their work done.
All right. Well, very good. Maybe we'll have a chance to apply some of those lessons. Joining us for the first time from District 53 in Woodbury, Senator Susan Kent. Senator Kent, we're delighted you're with us this evening. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, great. Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here. I am in my first term, so as a senator, beginning my third session. It's been quite the experience, and I'm enjoying it greatly and feel like we're getting a lot of good work done. I serve on the Senate's E12, Early Childhood through 12th Grade Education Committees. I am on the Higher Education and Workforce Development Committee, so Representative Pawlowski and I get to work on some issues together. And I'm also vice chair in the Senate on Transportation and Public Safety.
All right. And then another regular guest, been with us on many occasions from District 38B, Delwood, Representative Matt Dean. Representative Dean, we're delighted to have you with us. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, I'm in my 6th term in the legislature. My wife Laura and I live just a little bit north of White Bear Lake with our 3 kids. And The legislature has switched the majority for the last 5 terms, and so I've been used to a lot of change back and forth, and Minnesota voters like to keep things interesting. So that keeps things interesting for us, too. And spending most of my time on health care, and I'm chairing the Health and Human Services Finance Committee and spending most of my legislative time on that. We're really focused on trying to make things fair for Minnesotans, fair for payers, fairer for providers, and for patients across geographies and systems. And we've been hearing a lot from folks all across the state, and hopefully we'll be putting those ideas to good use. The governor's budget just came out this week, and so we're sort of hitting the ground a little bit, as it were, at the Capitol.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your background is as an architect. Am I right about that?
Yes, architecture, and there's where you have to get a whole bunch of people who don't agree with each other to get something built on a certain day for a certain amount of money. So there's a lot of transfer to the legislature, so it's not a bad background to have.
So that makes you automatically our expert on the Capitol Restoration Project. So if any questions come up, we'll look to you first. So
Well, I'm not helping on the nuts and bolts of it, but I do know quite a bit about it and have been cheering it on. So.
Very good. Well, let's start with questions from viewers. We had one from who watched last week and thought we should be more pointed in our question to the legislators on a question involving taxes. And so we'll ask the question just the way he sent it to us. He or she sent it to us. Why can't the legislature pass a bill to freeze property taxes for senior citizens or consider a statewide sales tax to replace or subsidize the property tax? What about property taxes? Any discussion here? So we start with you, Representative Pawlowski.
Well, frankly, we don't collect property taxes. The local units of government do. We manipulate them in a variety of ways, but we do not collect them. We buy them down. And in the last legislative session, you saw significant investments in local government aid, also in K-12, which allowed most of those areas to either hold property taxes very low or even flat. So the idea that you can get away with them, and the locals are even controlled by a percentage amount that they can increase them. So property taxes are very regressive. The legislature recognizes that, and we made significant investments to either hold them flat or buy them down in the last legislative session. What we will do this legislative session is yet to be determined.
Senator?
Agreed, and I would add, I was in some discussions recently in my local community, and one of the things I hear from local leaders is that ways we can help keep property taxes low are taking some of the burdens off of the local districts and some of the things they have to do. For example, taking care of roads and bridges in our local communities, helping relieve some of that burden by making sure that we're providing some relief there.
Well, I have a lot of sympathy for the gentleman who wrote the question in, because particularly for seniors who are on a fixed income, maybe they have their house paid for, but they've got a lot of additional health care costs or other costs, and they can't really keep up. And they would like to live in their home, and every year they're told that if we have higher taxes at the state level and that is passed down, that will somehow translate into lower property taxes. But the one constant that we've seen, whether LGA, local government aid to cities, goes up or whether it stays flat, is that local property taxes seem to go up. And I think particularly in the last session, people who were expecting after a tax increase that their property taxes would not go up, they were surprised when they opened up the mail and found out, in fact, they did go up. And particularly in greater Minnesota, where we see farm owners paying a huge price for land, and also for business owners, that maybe for businesses that aren't making any money at all or less money than they used to make, just really exorbitant tax increases. So it makes it really hard for Minnesotans when they can't predict what their budget's going to be.
I'm going to, just because I know the viewer's concerned about this, I have not heard any mention on our program this year or read anything in the media about this, anybody talking about a statewide sales tax to replace or subsidize the property tax. Am I right about that?
I don't think you would find that mechanism being used to replace any tax. I doubt if there will be any tax increases, at least through the House this year. I would say that that's highly unlikely.
All right, a viewer from that great Minnesota community of unidentified town wants to ask a historical question, and I actually think this is a pretty good question, because vocational schools, communities, colleges have been kind of in the news the last couple of weeks, and this viewer is puzzled about why vocational schools became colleges. And I'm going to look right to you, Representative Pawlowski, because I know you and I have had this conversation over the course of my 25 years, and you predate me by a few years. So tell me a little, tell our panel a little bit about this.
The vocational schools were once part of the school districts. The decision was made to take them away from the school districts for a variety of reasons. One was cost. The districts were complaining about the costs of having these types of courses inside the high schools. And the other was a move to making them, quote, more professional. I would say now that that decision was probably flawed, and that what we should reconsider now is moving those vocational classes. If we can't move them back inside the school district, we should move them in a way that the students inside a high school would have the responsibility to say, I don't want to take X amount of subjects. I want to take certain types of subjects that we once considered shop classes, and we would have that experience parallel with any other academic class. And actually, when you tour, and I have a great number of the technical colleges, they're pleading with some type of a connection with the high schools. That connection has to be made again, and it has to be made in a formal way, and there has to be parallel credit. Parallel credit for academic courses, parallel credit for these hands-on courses, so that we have openings in automotive. We have openings in a variety of now areas that are hands-on learning. That should be an experience that they have at the high school level so they can immediately transfer into the job market. So the decision was made. At the time, it was deemed to be a good one. I think we've got to start to reverse it and actually say we want to link now to the high schools so those students have that experience.
Representative Dean, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Representative Pawlowski said it very well, and I think integrating high school students in particular to the opportunities that they have in the workforce today that are very, very different than maybe they were even in the 1990s or 80s, that manufacturing and production isn't the same as it was. It's not dirty and it's not dingy. There's a manufacturer in my district, a German medical parts manufacturer, that requires absolutely highly trained, highly skilled workers that don't necessarily need a college degree, but they do need math skills and can get a job where they can make some really decent money when they're 20 years old. And it's not necessarily a bad story to tell, but it's one that they're very surprised when a high school student will take a tour of a factory like that to say that it's not exactly what's in their cartoon bubble of what they're imagining it might be, that not only for the workplace but also for how much money they can make relative to what you might make with an English major coming out trying to find a job these days.
Senator Kent, any thoughts on this?
Yes, it's something we've talked a lot about both in the E12 committee and in the higher education committee. I think, it's great to say we want every kid and every student to have the best opportunity they can, but we want it to be the best fit for who they are and what their interests and skills are. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation. And I see a lot of innovation beginning to happen because everybody is recognizing that, it seems like a good idea to encourage everyone to go to college. It hasn't worked out so great for a lot of people. And for our workforce, we have a real mismatch right now between some available jobs and the skills that we have available in the workforce. So like we've seen some cases in Bloomington, for example, where the public school district is working with area community colleges and building that bridge. In the area where Representative Dean and I are, in the east side of the metro, the Intermediate District 916 has done a really innovative program at Century College, and they transport high school kids who, for example, did the automotive program at Park High School down in Cottage Grove for one sort of entry level, but then the next time they can go and get a certification program at Century, and it's real cutting edge technology, equipment, new cars, and it really is preparing them for the workforce. And they have those kinds of programs in a variety of areas, including dental hygiene and veterinary tech, EMT, law enforcement. It's really pretty exciting. It's not something that is necessarily replicable in smaller communities, but these kinds of innovations are happening, and I think that's a model that everybody should be looking at.
All right. We have a couple of viewers who are concerned about spending money. They're concerned about money being spent on trains, and they want it spent on roads and bridges. Let's expand that question and talk not only about that question, but also more generally transportation issues. Why don't we start with you, Senator, and talk a little bit about where you see that issue going, and then we'll go to Representative Dean and Representative Pawlowski. Go ahead.
Well, what I keep hearing in my community across the political spectrum is a real recognition that our roads and bridges are a problem. Congestion in the East Metro is a tremendous problem. It's the case all over the state. I've sat through so much testimony from county engineers from all corners of Minnesota, state legislators from all around the state, outlining real serious needs in terms of congestion and public safety and condition. And we know full well that if we don't do a good job of maintaining our roads, the fixes get really expensive. So we don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish on this issue. When it comes to the conversation about roads and bridges versus transit, there was a presentation recently from the Itasca Project that showed a wonderful little bar chart. And so the bar chart for local roads was like this, and for state roads was like this, and then transit is like this. It is a really small percentage of what we do. And to expand it would still be a small percentage of where our transportation dollars go. But it could also make a big difference. It's the kind of infrastructure that will attract people and businesses to the area. And it's not just trains. We have relatively few light rail projects in the works. Most of what we're talking about are buses, whether it's like the Gold Line or Gateway Corridor out towards my community, which will be a bus rapid transit in a dedicated guideway, or just all your good old-fashioned buses that get people to work efficiently. I think it's funny, I hear from people all the time, we don't need more transit, we need more buses. Well, guess what? Buses are transit, and if we make these investments, we're gonna have more of that kind of transportation.
Representative Dean?
Well, I think if you look in the last couple of years, middle-class Minnesota has not gotten much of a break. But the one break that the average guy and gal in my district and across the state has gotten is $2 gas. It's a big deal. If you have a Suburban with a 25-gallon tank, it's $100 at $4 a gallon to fill it up. And it's half that, obviously, $2 a gallon. And that's real money for people. They don't have to stand in line. They don't have to fill in forms. I saw two complete strangers high-fiving each other at a Holiday Station as they were filling up. So it's like the first time the average guy says, you know what, I finally got something. And here we are, we're looking at a gas tax increase. So the average the guy out there and gal out there is saying, what, you've got to be kidding me. We've just finally gotten the one break we got, you got to come after it. So people kind of look at that and they say, you know, what are you possibly thinking about? And I think that I have a lot of sympathy for that, and for people, particularly in greater Minnesota, that don't, that drive more and they have no access to transit, trains or bus rapid transit. They wonder about that, you know. And in our area, one of my constituents challenged me to try to go downtown on the bus. So I said, I grew up in McCarran's Lake on Rice Street, so the Lorenz Greens buses went up and down Rice Street when I was a kid. You just go out to Rice Street and wait, and you get on a green bus and you go downtown, and then you'd wait again and come back. There was no, you know, that's what you did. So I was on the phone with my wife, and I said, I'm going to go downtown. I got all day. I'm going to just figure out what it takes. And she goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm walking out to 61. And she says, well, what are you going to? And I said, well, I'm going to get a bus. So I waited. It took me almost 3 hours to get downtown from where I was without just setting out. We don't have a lot of bus service around White Bear Lake. There's one express bus in the morning that I drive by. And I had to go to Maplewood Mall to get off, to get downtown. So it's not like it was in 1900 where there was a train every hour on the hour to downtown White Bear Lake between downtown St. Paul and downtown White Bear Lake. So that was 1900 when that was in effect. So people in the suburbs really do look at things a little bit differently, and they say, well, actually, we're not seeing this great benefit either. You know, and the bus rapid transit that you mentioned is on a dedicated busway. It's $500 million. That is a lot of money to go 12 miles. So I think that people want to see cheaper options, particularly in the suburban areas and in greater Minnesota. They particularly are going to, I think we're going to hear from them if we go after them with a gas tax increase.
Representative Pawlowski?
Well, the last time we raised the gas tax was under Governor Pawlenty, And we did that because the Minnesota Business Partnership and the Chamber of Commerce supported a gas tax increase, and even when he vetoed the bill, there was an override of the governor's veto because they supported it. I say that because when that occurred, there was another thing that happened up here. A bridge fell, and that bridge, of course, was in Minneapolis. But another bridge was closed shortly thereafter, the Winona Bridge. It was closed 2 weeks after the governor came to Winona when we were one of the 5 cities that was capital for a day and presented the sesquicentennial stamp to the city of Winona, on which the bridge was boldly stamped. And 2 weeks later, we closed it. A day after the bridge was closed, Midtown Foods, which is 2 blocks from where that bridge drops into Winona, saw a 70% reduction in the number of people that are buying at the Midtown Foods. So unfortunately, Winona's learned the hard way. And now we are getting a new bridge. We're getting a bridge that's about $150 million. It's going to go right next to the old one. The old one will be repaired because it's considered a historic site now, and so it will eventually be repaired and we'll have 4 lanes. But the lesson that was learned here, unless you make investments, you're not going to have infrastructure. And if you don't have infrastructure and these arteries are cut, it immediately impacts the economy of the communities that are the closest to it. You turned a 15-minute drive to Winona. If you lived across the river, you had to go either to La Crosse or to Wabasha. And then gas wasn't under $2. It was about $4.50. So there are both sides here. I think the great thing about this session, one of the big topics is transportation. The issue is this: are we going to do one-time funding for transportation projects, or are we going to make a long-term investment? I again say that if the partnership, business partnership, and the Chamber of Commerce do not support a tax increase, I do not see a tax increase coming out of the House. I simply don't see it. So then it would probably be a one-time investment, and how that would be done, whether that's going to be straight up general revenue or a capital investment out of our committee, I don't know.
We have a question from White Bear Lake. A viewer is concerned about the wolf depredation. There we go. The wolf depredation claims, dealing with, of course, livestock losses, and of course this all ties back to the federal court decision restoring the wolf to the endangered species list. And this viewer is concerned about over $100,000 in damages and wondering what the state's going to do about dealing with these issues. Who wants to take about that? Who wants to take that question? Anybody? Dean, let's start with you. Any thoughts on that?
Well, since this is from White Bear Lake, why not?
Why not? That's right.
Well, I don't serve on the Environment Committee, so I haven't dealt with this directly. I have gotten a lot of email from folks in my district and across the state about the wolf hunt and moving it back onto the endangered species. There's I think less than 300 wolves were taken last year. There's not a great deal of wolves that are taken in the hunt, but we want to look at what the relationship is between the wolf and the moose population and also livestock in Minnesota. We see livestock, unfortunately, taken by wolves. And that's something that I think if you live in greater Minnesota, you have a very, very different view of wolves. In the suburbs where Senator Kent and I live, the kids think of the wolves in terms of going to the zoo and seeing the wolf. They don't think about a calf that got taken or a deer maybe that was taken when you could have hunted that deer. In our neighborhood, we've got too many deer, and you're just trying to avoid them on Highway 96 most of the time. Mm-hmm. So we have a very different view of it in the suburbs, probably than people in greater Minnesota. So it's something that we're going to hear more about, I think. But particularly in northern Minnesota, I have a very, very different view of this. And it is one of the interesting things about the legislature. It really depends on which branch of the tree you're sitting on and which part of the state you're representing. This is one of those issues that's viewed very differently by which part of the state where you come from.
Wolf issues. Representative Pawlowski?
Well, in greater Minnesota, we do have issues with livestock. We have issues with crops also. When the deer population is up, you're avoiding them, Representative Dean, in your car, and our farmers are having them rate their crops. So they have long discussions about deer and how to keep deer away from their crops. And the issue with the wolf, I think, is very similar to it. There's going to have to be a compromise here, because whether it's livestock or crops, both are a commodity, both need to be protected, and you just can't have unlimited access by any type of a creature to these commodities. So I'm hopeful there'll be a compromise this session. But you just can't have those losses for the farmers or those that are raising any types of herds. Can't be done.
Senator?
I agree in the sense that I think we do need to have more of a discussion about this. And Representative Dean is right. All of my email is about protecting the wolves from my constituents. But, it is a narrow view coming out of the suburbs, and I definitely recognize that. I think one of the concerns with the federal ruling is that it leaves it so that you can only kill a wolf in self-defense, and there's no protections there when it comes to livestock. And so I think there is an opportunity to have a more nuanced conversation, as Representative Pawlowski describes, and talk about all the issues involved.
We also have a question on deer management. I recognize that maybe we sometimes have questions to the panel that the panel doesn't necessarily know a great deal about, but this viewer noted that Wisconsin's had some success with a review of their whitetail deer management program, and that led to significant changes. Has there been talk of some kind of an audit or an examination of how we handle whitetail deer in Minnesota? Representative Dean, any thoughts on that?
That's something I do not know.
Anybody else in the panel?
There has been, the Farm Bureau and others have taken up the issue, and in fact there has been. And this goes back again to the farmers and a crop issue. In southeastern Minnesota, when the deer population goes up, farmers really do get raided, and they'll have entire acres of corn that'll be decimated by deer. So it's an issue that there have been bills introduced, and I think you're going to see a rather intense discussion this year on exactly what are you going to do when this deer population is as big as it is, and we're not controlling it.
Two viewers are concerned about elder care issues and specifically nursing home wages, and want to know what, if anything, the legislature is going to do about that in this session. Anybody want to take a run at that? Should we start with you, Senator Kent? Your thoughts on that?
That is an issue that I hear about, and I know it's a real challenge in many parts of the state. As we are having the aging of our population, this is going to continue to be a challenge. But with the competing pressures this session on the budget, it's one of those things that I'm curious to see how somebody's going to pull that off. It's important. We need to figure out a way to do it, but I'm not sure if that's going to be able to be something we can pull off.
President Pawlowski, any thoughts?
Well, last session we did make investments with both the disability community and with long-term care. We gave them technically their first raise since the recession, and I think that's helped. My father is in assisted living. He had a stroke in 2008, and we live that every day. When I travel back and forth, he's in Red Wing, I will stop and we have a discussion, and I get to see firsthand what it's like to be in assisted living. And when you have a turnover of staff, it dramatically impacts the person. Dad has had issues, and he's got real issues when they don't know how to deal with him. And he's not bashful. He will at times get a little ornery. So we've had to come down and say, before, this person knew how to help him. This person does not, and they have to learn. And then if they leave, we start all over again. And remember, if you're in these facilities, the care is 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week. It's total care. So I'm not only sympathetic, I see it every time I go back and forth, and I visit Dad at least twice a week going back and forth, and then usually we see him on weekends too. So this is a real issue, and if we have to, I would hope that this legislative session we would take a close look again at revisiting those wages and seeing what we can do to keep those people in place so we don't have that turnover.
Yeah.
Well, we want to make sure that seniors live where they want to live, and in most cases that's at home for as long as possible. And sometimes folks just need a little bit of extra help at home, so we provide waivered services and services in the home for seniors, and we want to be able to continue to do that so that people can live at home comfortably as long as they can, if that's what they would like to do. And then to provide a continuum of care for assisted living facility and skilled nursing care, which is becoming less and less prevalent, that it's more episodic. It's not a place to go to. It's a place to go for a while and recover back from. So what we're seeing is a great deal of expense in Greater Minnesota, and particularly in Medicaid and Medicare spending in the community and supportive services. And that's where a lot of the growth is, and that's a good thing, because that means people are being able to stay at home longer. But we can't control that cost. The cost is uncontrollable as it currently is, so we have to keep it under control. To keep skilled nursing care in Greater Minnesota, particularly in very small towns, it's a big deal, because that's close to family for residents, but also for very small communities. That might be the largest, or in some cases the only employer in town. And if you're trying to compete, the people working at that facility can travel a little ways and make significantly more money. They're having a really hard time keeping the doors open. One of the things that we're looking at is rate equalization, which means that in skilled nursing facilities, everybody in Minnesota pays the same no matter what. And we're one of 2 states that has that. And if what nursing homes are saying is that if we had the ability to charge more for certain services, that we could keep our doors open and provide more services to people, that might help keep the doors open for a little longer. We're going to be looking at that. We're also going to be looking at trying to make it a little bit fairer for how we're paying people in the zones that how people are paid for what they do shouldn't depend so much on where you live. And that's kind of what we're trying to look at to make it a little more fair.
There's a level of sophistication with this audience that you don't find everywhere. We have a question from a viewer who notes that some years ago the legislature gave municipalities authority to create what are called stormwater districts and to charge for improvements over a larger area without dealing with the Chapter 429 special assessment procedure. And given the interest in transit and traffic and roads and bridges that we've had this session, the viewer is suggesting that maybe there should be some experimentation dealing with traffic, with street improvements in the same way. In other words, decoupling street improvements from 429 special assessment procedures. The idea being that many streets benefit larger parts of the community than just simply the area in front of a particular property. It's a little bit policy wonkish, but it's an interesting question, and I guess my question is to the panel, has there been any discussion about special assessment procedures, those kinds of issues, ways of allowing cities to perhaps more easily make street improvements without going through 429 proceedings? Representative Pawlowski, you've got the most, you've got the veteran status here. What do you think?
This is an issue I frankly am not that familiar with. I am more familiar with the impact of something like local government aid, and what we saw in Winona when we did finally start restoring local government aid, there were 50 blocks of streets that are under repair, and I mean almost total repair. Sewer, the entire street's been taken up, and they're being replaced, and this is a one-time investment, but it's an investment that should last 100 years. That particular niche, though, I am not familiar with.
This is kind of an inside baseball question. Now, the former city attorney in me thinks this is really interesting, but I'm sure a lot of other people don't. Representative Dean, any thoughts on that?
On the questions, particulars of that, I would not be familiar with how that might benefit towns in my district, so I would be interested to find out more about that. I know that in my city of White Bear Lake, the city and the state work together to try to match some local and state funds to try to fix up Highway 61. So if you cruise through White Bear Lake, you're going to see some White Bear Lake money, and you're going to see some state of Minnesota money coming together in a project that they work together on to try to streamline that. But I would be interested in your wonkish listener or viewer about how that might help us more.
Senator?
Well, I actually do know a little bit about it.
Hey, there you go. We found our expert.
I won't go that far. But in the Senate Transportation Committee, we have been talking about this for a few sessions. And if anybody wants to refer to good old Senate File 87, which is the transportation finance.
There's even a Senate file on it.
There
is. Way to go.
It is included as one component of the comprehensive transportation package that Senator Dibble has authored and that I'm pleased to be a co-author of. And it includes these street improvement districts. And again, it goes back to the issue issue that counties and cities and townships have really struggled to try to take care of this very real need in their communities, and they're looking for new tools. And this is, it's much as you described, it allows some flexibility and recognizing that, if my little street gets improved, it really just benefits my property value. But there are some streets that do play a larger benefit into the community, and that we can be a little more creative in drawing those lines and allowing some local control into that decision making.
And that'll be part of the legislative discussion going forward. May actually see some action on it.
Absolutely.
Is that in the governor's budget, Senator, in a way?
I do not believe that is in his proposal.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that.
One of my very first assignments as a young lawyer 30 some odd years ago was to deal with a 429 problem. So like I said, it's got a little aspect of wonkiness to it. We have another who wants to talk about something that's a little bit more direct, perhaps a lot more interest to our viewers, and that is what's going on with K-12 or E-12 education. So let's start with you, Senator, and then we'll go around the table. What's going on there, and what are we likely to see this session?
Oh, so much. We've had so many really interesting conversations. After a number of years of holding the budgets really flat or cut, we were able to reinvest into our public school system over the past couple of sessions, provide all-day K, a number of important advancements. But we still have so many needs. We heard the governor's proposal. He brings up a lot of great ideas, and a bunch of really good bills are being discussed. But again, it comes back to some real challenges. One of the things we came up with out of the last couple of sessions was this idea, this framework of the world's best workforce. And what that does is it says we need our kids to be ready for kindergarten. They need to be reading at grade level at third grade. We need to deal with the achievement gap. We need people to be ready for college and ready to be successful in post-secondary. And so we're talking about a number of these early childhood programs. We're looking at the teacher evaluation situation and teacher development. We're talking about any number of things. I had a bill today talking about PE because when kids are active, they learn better. So it is a wide-ranging conversation.
President Pawlowski, I'm sure you watched that very carefully, given your background. Talk a little bit about education issues.
Well, I'm going to go local for a second. Winona State University was the first land-grant college west of the Mississippi in 1858. It was the first teacher preparation college. We're in the process now of reinventing teacher preparation with the Education Village. We're looking at a comprehensive way now of redefining how we are going to prepare our teachers in really pre-K through as long as it takes to educate an individual. There were a series of buildings that are a block from our campus. They were once Cotter High School, which was a Catholic high school, and Wabasha Hall, which was an elementary. Those have been purchased by Winona State. We're going to convert those buildings into the Department of Education, which is now on our campus in a building that's 60 years old and really cannot be converted for the purpose. And the goal here is to have any student that comes in to be a teacher start working with private and public school students and teachers from the very first class they take until the last class they take, and then actually work the way we used to when this was our preparation school. We had actually 6 grades, Phelps Hall, where people in Winona now who are our age graduated from that elementary school on campus and were taught by teachers who were going to be teachers. We want to return to that, and I think we have to restore the integrity of teacher preparation where you're going to know early in your career whether you're going to be a good teacher or not, and if you can't be a good teacher, then go somewhere else. But by the time you're done, you'll have worked with private, public school, both students and teachers, and you will have had an experience that should prepare you for almost anything. So I think what we're doing is saying we're going to reinvent. We were the first of the teacher preparation colleges west of the Mississippi. We were the best. I want to return us to being the best, and I think preparing teachers for the 21st century and doing the job they need to do is the way to do it.
So the idea would then be to move away from, maybe move away is the wrong word, de-emphasize classes on pedagogy, that kind of thing?
Yes, I can honestly say in the 37 years I taught, I never really did use the word pedagogy in my classroom. And if I had, I would have frightened the students beyond description. This has to be hands-on learning. You have to actually work with students and with teachers. And what we want to do, because these are also tax dollars in play here, Winona State was the first laptop university in the MnSCU system and is still the only one. We're moving to tablets or iPads. We want to make sure that when these teachers graduate, they will be able to use 21st century technology in a productive way, and also have private and public school teachers come in. And licensure is a big issue here. How are you going to get the number of renewal units you need to get your license? If this works the way we want it to, there will be a calendar set up. You can look at the calendar and you can say, I need to get this, this, and this for my licensure. You go to Winona State, you can get it there, you can get it at the very highest level, and this will hopefully help school districts in having, and I can honestly say it, workshops that were worthless just to build up your renewal units to get your licensure. This should be a way of saying, I'm actually going to improve myself as a professional, and I'll do it in a way I can take it back to the classroom and use it.
Representative Dean, any thoughts, K-12?
Well, I'm just looking at colleges with my oldest kid. So I've seen the kindergarten through 12. I've seen K through 12 up close, and I've got 2 more coming along the way. And I can tell you that that the parents that I talk to have a very different experience today that we had when we were kids and going to school, and people, much different stresses, and it's a lot harder for folks, not just in the inner city, but in the suburbs in greater Minnesota. It's having a lot of stresses on parents and families. A lot of parents are feeling like teachers, doing homework with kids at night that didn't seem to be there a long time ago. So things are definitely changing, particularly for people maybe with kids that kind of in the middle, maybe not at the upper end, and maybe not at the kids who need special help, but boy, there's a lot of people in the middle that are just saying, man, it seems like my kid is getting the short end of the stick, and I'm going to have to either pay for tutor or pay for extra help or to try to help them along. So there's certainly a lot of resources that go into that, and parents are just saying, how is this going to help my kid and help our situation moving forward? And really, the teacher is the person who closes the door in the morning and turns on the lights, is in charge. And we are really going to be looking at ways of improving the teacher quality, and also changing things like what's called last in, first out in Minnesota, where we have got this crazy situation where we get rid of teachers because they haven't been there for very long, and sometimes we're getting rid of our very, very best and brightest teachers simply because they've been on the clock the least. We think that that's not a fair situation for parents that are really exasperated with schools. Secondarily, we believe that very strongly that kids should not have to suffer under a failing school, should not have to pay the price of a zip code. So if you're in an area with bad schools and really dilapidated situations in the physical buildings, and that translates a lot, that's tough. It shouldn't have to depend on your zip code. So we really want to look at some fairness issues, and that means access to other districts. It means vouchers in some cases, and it also means dealing with the teachers union, which is extremely difficult in the state of Minnesota because we are one of the states with the strongest teachers union in the 50 states, and that's just unquestionable.
Any other thoughts on education?
I would just like to echo something that Representative Pulaski was speaking of, and it has to do with what Representative Dean was referring to as well, and that is about teacher quality. And one of our challenges right now is that we are not attracting some of the best and brightest young people into the teaching profession. And I think we need to look at that, because we need to have the most passionate, qualified people. We don't have enough qualified people coming into the teaching field, and we need to make sure we have that, or we're going to have a hard time keeping teaching, training, and bringing them in and helping them develop into the best professionals they can be.
So we have 2 remaining, at least the only 2 that I know of, maybe there are some other examples, but 2 remaining blue laws that have been very much in the news. The question of Sunday liquor sales, the question about automobile sales, which are currently, in both cases, prohibited by state law, as I understand it, at least in large part. And we have viewers on both sides of this question who think these restrictions should go away, and then another viewer from Alexandria that says, with respect to the car sale ban on Sunday, why are they pushing it? Nobody cares about it. So what's going to happen on those two issues? They're sort of, at least with the liquor sales, that's a legislative perennial. We've seen that many times here. Representative Dean, what's your thought?
Well, I certainly get a lot more email on liquor sales because people buy more liquor than they buy cars. I think probably has to do with the volume. And this is an issue that you hear a lot about. And for me, I have always, in the past, I've opposed Sunday sales just because I believe we have got a lot of problems in the state of Minnesota, a lot of very difficult problems. And I don't think having more access to more alcohol for more people is going to solve them. However, this is one of those areas where I think people see this as a liberty issue of, why is the government, the nanny government, telling me I can't do something on Sunday? Why do I have to drive in my area across the Stillwater Bridge to Holton or down to Hudson like a child, telling me I have to leave? And people, I think, have kind of taken this on as something where they see the government is too big, too bossy, too nosy, and this is how it affects me, and I don't like it. And I really am kind of impressed by that argument, by the frustration that people have. So I've actually moved from being opposed to kind of open to this right now, because I've really heard from a lot of people that maybe see this as something that is representing something a little bit larger for them. And it's for them, for many of them, it's not about just being, having it be less of a hassle to get some beer to watch a football game on Sunday.
Representative Pawlowski, my guess is you've heard this discussion once or twice.
Oh, we've heard it, yes. The bridge that was closed shut down Sunday liquor permanently, actually, for 2 weeks. So I agree that it is probably a liberty issue, but you also had elements in both the automotive and liquor industry that were lobbying not to do it. And they, for a long period of time, said, there are reasons why we don't want to do this, and those reasons have slowly, I think, eroded away. So I think there's a good opportunity for one or the other to happen this session. You just don't have when the automotive dealers started losing dealerships, I think you saw a change in their attitude, at least locally, toward selling cars on Sunday. And we had a lot I know in southeastern Minnesota, where the only dealership now is really in one or two communities. Every other community has lost their dealership, and they have to go to either Winona or Lewiston or someplace that still has a dealership. On the liquor part of it, the same thing is true, I think, with the recession. That little bit more of time that you're open might be just the difference between keeping the shop and not keeping the shop. So I think the votes might be there for either one of them.
And I am a supporter of Sunday sales. I think there are ways to do it to allow, in certain communities where you have a municipal store, that they can opt out if they want to make that local decision. But there in Woodbury, just like you, I'm across the bridge, and the stories of people who just say, oh my gosh, I go over to Hudson on Sunday, and all the license plates in the parking lot are Minnesota plates, and they just feel like that's tax revenue walking out the door. And then they also know that that's not supporting the local businesses. And I hear from my local business owners, hey, I'm paying rent and electricity 7 days a week. Why can't I have 7 days of revenue to cover that? Or if somebody only wants to be open 6 days, maybe they can close on Monday, like a lot of industries do, restaurants, hair salons. That's a business practice because customers are available and shopping on Sunday. I think there's a lot of solutions here, and I think this is a year we can make a difference.
The businesses in Hudson and Fargo want you to keep that ban in place.
Yes, they do. Anyway. And a rumor has it that there's some support for Minnesota to not repeal coming from those places. But.
And actually, Wisconsin could use the revenue now.
So I spoke earlier about the knowledge of our audience, and here's another sort of technical question that reflects, I think, a viewer who's got some level of sophistication and information about this issue. Viewers concerned about the condition of our roads suggests that truck weight's an issue. This viewer suggests that we ought to do what 23 other states are doing, requiring more motor vehicle inspections and also more truck inspections, and also suggests that we should weigh trucks more often. Those are obviously motor vehicle regulation questions. Has there been any discussion about that in this session? Representative Pawlowski?
I haven't That issue I haven't been exposed to. We used to have a weigh station that was right outside Winona, and it isn't operative, so that might be the reason why. We maybe should reopen that one. But there's a cost to all of this, and the discussion has to be where's the money going to come from to operate these. If you're going to open more and have them open, someone's going to have to pay for it.
On the truck weight issue, this is a perennial one, and there's sort of competing theories on the science of that, because if you have a heavier truck but you have more axles, you distribute it differently, you have more brakes, so there's a real question on some physics and math and technical aspects of it. There's a GAO report that's supposed to come out sometime soon. It was actually supposed to have been out already, that will analyze this, so hopefully that'll help give some good guidance. On the issue of weighing trucks, I was interested, and this is an issue that we deal with in a number of areas. There were some reports that, particularly coming out of North Dakota, there were a lot of heavy trucks overweight, and so it's something I think we should think about, because if trucks are coming into our state and doing extra damage to our infrastructure, we need to be paying attention to it.
Well, I think there is a significant number of trucks that are trying to violate the law, and the reason that I know that is that in Stillwater, we had several instances where trucks were coming across from Wisconsin and crashing into the bridge, and the bridge would then be out for weeks at a time, and then people would have to go around to Hudson. So what we were trying to do is to figure out...
Too tall, you mean?
They were too tall, well, it's a very restricted bridge.
Right.
And in one case, I think it had an operable back to the truck, and it was open when he was trying to cross. That's going to be a problem. Crashed into the bridge, but also the size of the trucks was a problem.
Right.
So what we did there was we actually limited the length of the truck on the Minnesota strip of land that you would land on if you crossed the bridge. So we, in effect, made all the trucks go down and across 94 where there actually was an inspection station. Before they did that, they spot checked the trucks to see how they were doing and caught a lot of trucks sneaking across. And what they found was that the reason that they were going through Stillwater and snaking through and hitting the bridge and screwing up traffic was they had something wrong with their truck that they didn't want inspected on 94 if they had to cross there. So there is a fair bit of that does go on. And it is a safety issue, and the vast majority of truck operators in Minnesota and interstate truckers do follow our laws, and they would probably welcome that because the vast majority of carriers do a great job and they follow the law and they have very good practices.
The viewer had this question about vehicle inspections, and I think our last experience with motor vehicle inspections in Minnesota was with pollution control some years ago in some areas, and it proved to be quite unpopular, as I recall. So, for whatever that might be worth. Higher education. This, of course, is a budget year for higher education as well. Representative Pawlowski, I guess I turn to you as our education expert.
Well, I would hope that we would continue to freeze tuition, both at the undergraduate level at MnSCU and at the University of Minnesota. We did that over the last 2 years. We have now seen a small decline in student debt. We know that the big issues in higher education are tuition and debt, and I will add 2 more. Administrative oversight. We banned administrative bonuses in 2013 and said the highest paid officials in this state should not get a bonus on a salary of $250,000 or $378,000 or $50,000 or $15,000 because the person that paid for it was a student. And then they carried the debt in tuition payments for 20 years or 10 years for paying for a bonus on an administrator that made a really hard decision. I'll raise your tuition and you don't get to say anything about it. We also said that if you are going to cut programs, you should cut administration first before you cut program and faculty and maintain the integrity of those programs. I would hope we would keep legislative oversight on administrative costs, that we would say we are going to focus all the resources we can on tuition, and that we would monitor very closely debt. And now the other issue is declining enrollment. Across the MnSCU system, there is at least a 5% decline in enrollment that has existed now for the 3rd year. In some campuses like St. Cloud, it's double digit. We know it exists at Duluth, and we also know it exists in the private colleges. Now, the easy argument is to say, well, the economy is improving and these people are just going back into the economy. I think that's only half of it. The other half of it is we have priced, particularly the middle class, out of a college education of any kind, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year. And we've also said that if you want to get it, you're looking at 10 years of debt and maybe more, and you might not get the job that's commensurate in order to pay off that debt. So I hope the focus is on maintaining access and affordability, and also on oversight, very close oversight of administrative costs. And if we do see a ratcheting down of program because of declining enrollment, we had better see a ratcheting down also of administrative costs. That's my short answer to the question.
Representative Dean, we've only got about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. Why don't you give us a little shot? Maybe we'll finish up then with the senator.
Well, as a dad, I was reading Bill Bennett's book called Is College Worth It? My son came in the room and he said, hey, what's going on with that, Dad? But I can tell you that looking at it, I do have sticker shock and worry about, the kids not just graduating, but also graduating with what kind of debt. Parents just don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank account or in their homes anymore, so that colleges aren't going to have any choice but to become more economical. So we're going to continue to push for better value.
Senator, you get the last word on this topic.
I'll say I kind of agree with, I want to study it a little bit more with some of the governor's proposals, which goes part of the way on the tuition freeze, but asks the institutions to meet the other part of that. And I think we do need to be targeted in terms of the aid that we're giving, because we have got to make sure that all our students have that opportunity for access.
And the MnSCU appropriation, that's held up by, there's a dispute between the staff, as I recall.
Yes, over charting the future.
Yeah.
And that's a very curious dispute, because if you're having a discussion and you have votes of no confidence at the 7 4-year institutions of the 2 biggest groups, the 2- and 4-year faculty, and they're all saying that they have a vote of no confidence on the architect of charting the future, it does not speak well for the future of higher ed.
The question of declining enrollment is interesting, and I'm going to take the last word here just to simply note that in the field, the legal field, law schools are now at mid-1970 levels nationwide in terms of students attending law school. And the sticker shock issue that's been discussed here is part of that. The changing economics of the field are part of it. I think this higher education question is a lot more complicated than it's made out to be. And that will take us to the end of our program. I want to thank our panel this evening. It's been great to have you with us. I want to thank our viewers for joining us this week. I want to remind you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, remind you that we will be with you again next week and all the weeks that follow until the legislature goes home sometime in May. Thank you and good night.
There's much more about Your Legislators online at pioneer.org/yourlegislators. Find out more about the history of the program, who's been a guest, and watch all of our past episodes. There's also a photo gallery, informative links, and much more. You can also get involved and stay in touch by following us on Twitter and join us in the discussion on our Facebook page. Thank you for watching Your Legislators. Major funding for Your Legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters, safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans.